believe that every people group is a true representation of their people group when they come to know God.
I'm having like a pain when I remember that the day when Jesus will come, these people have heard nothing about the gospel.
Edinburgh is just one of many UK cities which, especially in the summer, see people from many different countries passing through as tourists. It's a bit like being at the United Nations, that huge international organisation made up of over 190 different countries. But are those political groupings the kind of nations that Jesus was talking about? The New Testament language indicates that he was referring to ethnic rather than political groups. The many different groups we see at Pentecost and recorded in Acts chapter 2 give us some idea of the ethnic and linguistic diversity of the world even in Jesus' time. So it's really no surprise to learn that although there are almost 200 nations, there are 12,000 different people groups in our world today. A quarter of these groups, 3,000 or so, live in Africa, and Christian researchers reckon that a third of those are unreached. But what exactly does that mean?
We're speaking of a group in which as yet no church has been established which is itself capable of reaching out from within the group to its own people. And so it has to be reached from outside.
But why should this be? Given the freedom to travel that we enjoy today, there can hardly be a people group in Africa to which others can't go. And anyway, some may add, but hasn't the gospel been preached in pretty well every corner of the globe already? What's the problem? Recent missions research has uncovered groups within groups, where the dominant one has been evangelized and a growing church exists, giving the impression that the whole group had been reached. But, for different reasons, the smaller groups have not responded to the gospel, and no church has been planted there. Many such hidden groups exist throughout Africa. One huge hindrance to the spread of the gospel in parts of the world is the presence of other world religions. In Africa, the biggest of these is Islam, and it has been the cause of a strong resistance to change. Let's take as an example an unreached people group living in East Africa. An AIM TIMO, or Training in Ministry Outreach Team, worked for 2 years among the very traditional Datog of northwest Tanzania.
As Tanzania has modernized, the Datog have really strived to maintain their traditional way of life. And I think in many ways they would be like in America, the Amish are. They don't want people coming in and changing them. So when the church comes in many ways it's considered a threat to their traditional way of life.
Like the vast majority of Africans, the Datog have a belief in God as creator.
But they believe also that it's very important that they worship their ancestors, that they give honor and respect to their ancestors. If there's a sickness, if there's a death, if there's a problem with their cows, it's because the ancestors have been in some way hurt or offended.
But some people question the very idea of taking the Christian message to another culture at all, and say, why don't you just leave them alone?
We're not going in to make them Westerners or white people. We're going in to make them fully Datog and to show them that God wants them to be all that He has planned for them to be as Datog.
If we come into this village and just look at it in a superficial way, it looks like people are very happy, but as you live here and you get to know them, you realize that these people are living lives of daily and minute by minute fear. They are afraid of everything. They cover their babies when they walk into compounds because they don't want people to bewitch them. Every time their children get sick, they believe that it's because they've done something to offend a spirit, to offend a relative, or to offend a neighbor. And so they think anything that happens in their life is because they've done something wrong. And we believe that that fear is exactly what Satan wants to use to keep these people in bondage.
When we came here, there were perhaps 2 Christian Datog. And right now in church there's about 21 people, and just recently there were 16 datog that was baptized. That is an awesome answer to prayer.
And it's this combination of spirit-motivated hard work and prayer that makes a ministry like this bear fruit. God's people praying in an informed way for more workers and praying about difficult situations as they arise in the relationship-building ministry that's the basis of reaching the unreached. But there are many challenges.
You know, coming from a Western culture, we are doers and we like to run around doing things. But here in this context, everything is through relationships. And so they won't mind coming to your house for 4 hours and just talking to you. That's been a challenge for me, a struggle to not be so busy running around, trying to hurry through my day and get things accomplished as much as to be with the people.
We're in an area where the language isn't written. And I think coming from an American context where we learn so much by reading, it made it a bit of a challenge to adjust, just to come and to learn by hearing.
In this village, the women, interestingly enough, are the spiritual leaders. And about 4 of them have really opposed the work that we've done here. And amazingly, God has superintended so that each one of those women has a son that has become a believer. And so God is working in those families.
There's a little church there, and it's growing. And it's exciting to see because it's becoming their faith and not just what we've introduced to them.
We prayed for people to believe, and that's the greatest thing we got, because many people now have believed, and we have a church which we didn't expect from the beginning, that we have like a big congregation.
AIM's TIMO program is just one effective way of reaching the unreached. But however the work is done, it needs the prayers and support of churches and individuals all around the world. So what can people in this country do? Well, the first thing I suggest is that you keep well informed. Type unreached people into an internet search engine and you will find over 50,000 links to websites on this subject. A welter of information about unreached people groups is available for the asking from a variety of missions, including AIM. Start reaching the unreached by praying for a people group somewhere in Africa, for individuals you may know about who are working among them, and for churches overseas that have taken up this vision too. Reaching the unreached anywhere needs prayer and support. So think about your part in God's plan to reach the nations. How God could use you in prayer, in supporting others, or in a direct involvement role among one of the many African unreached people groups. Why not join one of our TIMO teams, or a team working among Africans here in Europe? We appreciate that each church and each person needs to find their own expression of Christian service. So our prayer is that God will bless you as you find and play your part in reaching those still unreached with the gospel.
When we came here, we found there was no church at all in this village. There was no one telling these people anything. There is no way they could ever know how to be free from these fears that they have.
These people, they didn't have that chance to hear the gospel. So maybe me now, I can use this time to tell them.